Have you ever been on a bus late at night and felt like something wasn't right? Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the darkness outside. Or maybe it was the feeling that someone was watching you. What happened to me 3 years ago made me question everything I thought I knew about reality. And even now, when I hear the sound of bus brakes screeching in the middle of the night, I still get chills. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of the last passenger. It happened during the winter of 2023. I was 26 years old and working the night shift at a warehouse on the outskirts of town. My shift ended at 2:15 a.m. Normally, my friend Marcus would drive me home, but that night he called in sick. That meant I had only one option: the Route 17 night bus. I hated taking that bus, not because it was dangerous, not because it was dirty, but because almost nobody used it. Most nights, there would be only 2 or 3 passengers, sometimes none at all. The bus stop was located beside an abandoned shopping center. Half the lights in the parking lot were broken. The wind was freezing. I remember checking my phone. 2:32 a.m. The bus was late. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. I was about to call a taxi when I finally saw headlights approaching through the fog. The bus pulled up slowly. The doors opened with a loud hiss. I stepped inside. Immediately, something felt wrong. The driver never looked at me, not once. His eyes remained fixed on the road ahead. I paid my fare and walked toward the back. The bus was nearly empty. There was an elderly woman sitting near the middle, a man wearing a dark hoodie near the rear exit, and a young girl around 10 years old sitting alone by the window. That struck me as odd. What child rides a bus alone at almost 3 in the morning? I looked around for her parents. Nobody. The doors closed. The bus pulled away. For several minutes, everything seemed normal. The engine hummed. The heater rattled softly. Streetlights passed by outside. Then I noticed something strange. The little girl hadn't moved once. Not even slightly. She simply stared out the window, motionless. I told myself she was tired, maybe asleep with her eyes open. But every time I glanced toward her, she was in exactly the same position. Exactly the same position. About 10 minutes later, the elderly woman stood up. She shuffled toward the front of the bus. As she passed me, she suddenly grabbed my wrist. Her hand felt ice cold. I jumped. She leaned close and whispered something. To this day, I remember every word. Do not talk to the girl. Then she released me and stepped off at the next stop. I sat frozen. My heart pounded. I watched her disappear into the darkness. The bus continued moving. I laughed nervously. Maybe she had dementia. Maybe she was confused. Still, the warning stayed in my head. Do not talk to the girl. The road became unfamiliar. I had taken Route 17 dozens of times, but I didn't recognize the streets anymore. Outside the windows, there were no stores, no houses, no traffic. Only darkness. Thick darkness. The kind that seems almost alive. I checked my GPS. No signal. That was impossible. The city always had coverage. I moved closer to the window. Nothing outside looked familiar. No landmarks, no signs. Just endless blackness. That's when I noticed the man in the hoodie, staring directly at me. I looked away. When I looked back, he was still staring. Not blinking, not moving, just staring. The bus suddenly hit a bump. The lights flickered. For a split second, everything went dark. When the lights came back on, the little girl was looking at me. Not out the window. At me. Her eyes were wide. Unnaturally wide. And she was smiling. A slow smile. A smile that stretched far beyond what seemed humanly possible. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I quickly looked away. My hands were shaking. I decided I had enough. I walked toward the front.
"Excuse me," I said to the driver. No response. "Excuse me, sir." Nothing. I moved closer. And then I saw his face. My blood ran cold. The driver's eyes were closed. Completely closed. Yet somehow, he was still driving. The bus continued smoothly down the dark road. I stumbled backward. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. The driver was asleep. Or dead. I don't know which was worse. Suddenly, a voice spoke behind me.
"You shouldn't be here."
I turned around. The little girl was standing in the aisle. I hadn't heard her move. She was only a few feet away. "What?" I asked. She tilted her head.
"This bus isn't for the living."
For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I laughed nervously. Very funny. The girl didn't laugh.
"You got on at the wrong stop."
My legs felt weak. "Where are your parents?" The smile vanished. "They're still looking for me." The temperature inside the bus seemed to drop instantly. Then she whispered, "They never found my body." I backed away. Every survival instinct screamed at me to run. But there was nowhere to run. The bus was moving. The windows wouldn't open, and the darkness outside looked endless. The girl pointed toward the rear of the bus. "Look." Against my better judgment, I turned around. The man in the hoodie had lowered his head. His hood slipped back. I nearly screamed. There was no face, only darkness, an empty void where his features should have been. Then more passengers appeared. I don't know where they came from. One moment the seats were empty, the next they were occupied. Dozens of people, silent, motionless, pale. Every one of them staring directly at me. I ran toward the emergency exit. I pulled the handle. Nothing happened. I pulled harder. Still nothing. The little girl's voice echoed through the bus. "Once the route begins, nobody gets off." The passengers slowly stood up, one by one, seat after seat. Their movements were unnatural, jerky, like puppets controlled by invisible strings. The bus lights flickered again. This time, they stayed off longer. When they returned, the passengers were closer. Much closer. I could hear them breathing. Or at least something that sounded like breathing. A wet, rattling sound. The driver finally spoke. His eyes remained closed. Final stop approaching. Every passenger turned toward the front simultaneously. I looked out the windshield. In the distance, I saw lights. At first, I thought it was another town. Then I realized the lights were candles. Thousands of candles. Arranged around what looked like a massive cemetery. The bus slowed. The doors opened. A cold wind rushed inside. The passengers began walking out.
silently, one after another. The little girl stood beside me.
"You still have time," she said. "Time for what?" "To wake up." Before I could answer, she pushed me. Hard. I fell backward. My head slammed against the floor. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the sidewalk beside the Route 17 bus stop. The abandoned shopping center stood nearby. The sky was beginning to brighten. Morning. A police officer was kneeling beside me. He looked relieved. "Thank God," he said. "What happened?" My head hurt terribly. "The bus," I whispered. "Where's the bus?" The officer exchanged a strange look with another officer. "What bus?" I sat up, confused. He handed me a bottle of water. "You were found unconscious here around 3 in the morning." I stared at him. "No, I was on a bus." The officer hesitated. Then he asked a question I'll never forget. "Route 17? A chill ran through my body. "Yes?" His face turned pale. A long silence followed. Finally, he spoke. "Route 17 was involved in a fatal crash in 1989. I felt my stomach drop. "What?" "The bus went off a bridge during a snowstorm." He swallowed. 37 people died. I couldn't speak. The officer continued, "Including a young girl who was never recovered." I felt ice in my veins. Then he showed me an old newspaper photo on his phone. A grainy black and white image. Passenger standing beside a bus. And there she was. The little girl. The same eyes. The same face. The same smile. Exactly as I remembered. I never took public transportation again. I moved to another city. I tried to forget. But some nights, around 2:30 a.m., I wake up to a strange sound outside my apartment. The hiss of bus doors opening. And when I look out the window, there's never anything there. Except one thing. A small figure standing on the opposite sidewalk. Watching. Waiting. Smiling. As if she's expecting me to miss my stop next time. And somehow, I know the Route 17 bus is still running, still collecting passengers, still heading toward its final destination. And one day, it may come back for me. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story and want to hear more terrifying true horror stories, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.